You are now listening to for Your Life podcast. I am your host, Miguel Ramirez. Now, in today's episode, we have one of our training partners. We got a blue belt in Jiu Jitsu, a Marine veteran, and one of our friends, Caleb O'Neill. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, for sure, man. We're out here, as you guys can see. We got a different location. We're out at the Veterans Breakthrough Retreat, and it's awesome to be able to sit here and do this podcast with you and kind of, talk to the people, let them know what we're doing out here, and also about your show, your podcast. So, yeah, where can people follow you and tell people a little bit about what you got going on?
Yeah, so we just started, me and my buddy just started a podcast. It's called Weekend Grunt Podcast, and you can follow us on Instagram at the Weekend Grunt Podcast, and it's really just focused around, just BS and stupid military stories, jiu-jitsu life, and kind of everything else about life and jiu-jitsu, military fitness, things like that. And we just wanted to have a chance to reconnect and reconnect a lot of our connections are with reservists. Both me and my buddy started out as reservists, so we wanted to kind of build that community up a little bit, and so yeah, we're just getting started. I think we've recorded 2 episodes. We've got another episode that we're recording this Sunday, so it'll be fun.
Yeah, for sure, bro. Congrats, that's awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, man. So like I said before, we're up here at in Flagstaff at a Veterans Breakthrough Retreat. As you guys can see, we're on day 3. Dude, it's been amazing just being up here with all the veterans and the jiu-jitsu. Like, we've been training and rolling twice a day. It's been amazing. Yeah,
it's been brutal.
Yeah. I'm definitely starting to feel it after the third day, twice a day. Yeah, it's adding up.
Absolutely. No, I love it though. It's a good gut check where you're at, and we're higher elevation too. I think we're like 5,000, 6,000 feet, and we're used to like 1,000 feet. So
right.
This elevation is definitely a difference too.
Yeah, it's making a difference for sure. So dude. So I wanted to kind of get into your story. I know, like we said earlier, you're a Marine veteran.
Yep.
But so starting out, what is your history with fighting, martial arts? Did you do any wrestling or anything growing up?
Yeah, so I did like 2 years of wrestling in 7th and 8th grade. It was kind of funny. Coming out of 6th grade, I had this guy tell me that I was the most unathletic person he'd ever met, because I didn't grow up playing sports. I didn't really have a chance to it. My parents weren't very well off, and so we just didn't have money to play sports. I'd play sports around the house and things like that, and I wrestled with my dad, but I never had a chance to really do a lot of sports. And this kid said that, and I'm like, that's going to change. So my 7th and 8th grade year, I wrestled and I ran track, and then went and played water polo all through high school, and then I did a lot of combatives in the military and things like that. That's where I would say I got my start in the whole fight scene.
Okay. Were you into fighting as boxing, MMA, or anything growing up? Was it around the house?
As a kid, I wrestled my dad every day, so I think that was it.
So it was a physical house. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Dude, that's awesome. Yeah. So when was the Marines always a thought for you? How was that? What was that thought when it came into your mind, or was it always there?
Yeah, my dad served in the Marines. He was in the Marines, and then he was in the National Guard. It's kind of funny. I kind of followed his footsteps. But I just remember seeing so many pictures of him, seeing him at 29 Palms, holding up a rattlesnake that he had just killed, and hearing him tell all these fun stories. And I grew up very patriotic. Always loved this country and what we have and the freedoms that we have. And so I just kind of knew that I was going to go in the military. And I think what drove me to the Marines was I just wanted to push myself. I think I just wanted to see where my limits were and kind of wanted to prove to myself that I was capable of doing hard things. So
yeah. Man, yeah, and Marines are definitely tough. I know when I was thinking about joining the military when I was growing up in New York, we didn't have an Air Force recruiter, the offices that were there. It was Army, Navy, and the Marines. There wasn't an Air Force guy there, or his office was probably closed all the time too.
It sounds like Air Force.
Yeah, right. But so I went to the Marine recruiter with all of my friends, but they were all a year ahead of me in school, so they ended up all taking off, and then my plan was to go into the Marines, and then I ended up moving to Florida where I met, didn't meet, my aunt's husband was an E9 in the Air Force, and he's like, before you go, He's like, why don't I take you to the base and show you what it's like? So he took me around. I had no clue like what an E9 was. Like he's like knocking on people's doors and they're like, oh shit. Like, and I'm like, what's wrong with them? You know, like it's just Mac, you know, but it's a different story once you're in, right? But, and then I ended up seeing like some fighter jets fly over the beach. I was hanging out at the beach and 2 F-15s flew over and I was like, dude, I think I want to do that. I'm going to see if I can work on jets. But yeah, I mean, I ended up taking like the PT test with the Marine guy. I went to, yeah, the PT test, I took the ASVAB, but I had to finish school. So once I moved to Florida, I just went to the Air Force guy. And yeah, I mean, it's been fun, but majority of my friends are all Marines. Yeah.
That's awesome.
But, you know, it's like between the branches, the camaraderie, it's always fun. We always shit on each other.
You always got to pick
around,
on each other.
right?
Yeah, my brother's in the Navy, and, you know, we give each other crap all the time. And it's good. It's good for the relationship.
That was funny, man. I sent one of my Army friends, so where I work, we have like a ton of veterans. And I saw this license plate that said NVY RTD.
I saw that.
Did you?
Love that. Yeah. Yeah.
And I send my friend the text. I'm like, oh, poor guy. This guy's gay and retarded. You know,
so awesome. Yep. Yeah, I sent that to my brother. I was like, man, this is solid. It speaks volumes.
Yeah. So what was your thoughts with like jiu-jitsu? How did that come into your mind? Like, yeah.
So kind of towards the end of my Marine Corps career, we do the McMAP program, the Marine Corps Martial Arts program, and everything, and I'd gotten up to my green belt. I got it for my brown belt, but the guy never signed the paperwork, so I can't actually say I'm a brown belt in McMAP. But that started it. I have the buddy that I'm doing the podcast with. He took me to a couple classes outside of the Marines and at I think Paul Tom's gym up in Utah. And that's what I was like, man, this is awesome. And it was a really good gut check because, you know, Marines, you think you're tough, you think you're strong, and then you go roll around with the guys that train jiu-jitsu and you get absolutely worked. And so I think that started it. So I was like 20, 22, 23. I'd just come back from a deployment and I did it for, I trained for about a year when I was 23, and then life got crazy, got deployed again, and then started again, I think when I was like 36.
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, so through the Marines, like you were familiar, like you learned about it and you got a lot of
combatives, a lot of ground hand-to-hand type fighting. And so it was
yeah. Can you break down what that program is? Cause I don't know I think a lot of people know the Marines have like a hand-to-hand combat. I'm sure the Army does too.
Yeah. Both of them.
I never heard of one in the Air Force, unless probably if you're in like one of those career fields.
Yeah.
But, you know, you got to be specifically in those career fields to get that type of training.
Right.
You know?
So the Marines, they have a martial arts program. It's called the Marine Corps Martial Arts Program, and, you know, really original, I know. But they do a lot of ground combatives. A lot of it is with your body armor and stuff like that.
Okay.
So you start really low. Like you start as a tan belt. It's a belted program, so you start as a tan belt, and you know absolutely nothing. And then you progress to a gray belt, and it's a little bit more. Green belt, you really start like fighting. You'll do these Shark Tanks, and you just have everybody just come in and smoke you. So that's green belts when it really gets fun.
It starts getting real.
And you're doing a lot of ground combat and hand-to-hand combat. And then brown belt is a lot of like knife techniques. Fighting with weapons and
getting
things
to
like
your
that.
weapons.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dude, that's great. So how is it like the jiu-jitsu that you learn in there? I mean, they're teaching you some jiu-jitsu.
There is a lot of jiu-jitsu. Yeah, there's a lot of jiu-jitsu fundamentals in that. It's a little bit different because you're working with body armor, and it's a different purpose, right? When you're fighting in the military, if you're in a fight in the military, it's because you're in a bad situation, and so you're fighting with a different purpose, I would say. But I think it's really similar, but not as technical as like coming to a gym. I think everybody in the military should do jiu-jitsu.
Okay.
So, you hear guys like Jocko, right? He was Navy SEALs, but he was also doing jiu-jitsu on the side.
Yeah.
And it's just such a good supplementary or just such a good base foundation, because then you can actually go to those military combatives, and you're just so much more advanced than everybody else. I think military martial arts system teaches you enough to have like a fundamental, like a foundation, But it's not like shooting. Like shooting, we shot a lot.
Right,
but
right.
combatives, we're just fighting, and it's I don't think that it is as strong as having that jiu-jitsu background and that like really the really disciplined technique background.
Yeah, dude, that's awesome. That's something that like I wish we would have done some of, and I mean some kind of introduction, dude, in the in the Air Force. It's like, yeah, we didn't do much of any of that.
Ours were usually just brawls. I remember training times when we'd line up like our platoon versus another platoon. We'd just be back to back, and they would blow the whistle, and it was just a brawl. Zero technique, just a brawl.
But dude, I think you need that. Like in the Air Force, they should add some of that. Like you gotta fucking hit each other.
Yeah,
I mean we're in the military.
You just need.
You know what
sometimes.
I mean?
Yeah,
I don't know, but yeah, that's pretty cool. We got a Chris running around here somewhere. He started a Veterans Breakthrough, but we'll get him in here. We'll probably have some of the people here attending the retreat coming through and talking about their experiences here too. But yeah, so how long have you been training jiu-jitsu now?
A little over 3 years. Probably like 3.5 years now.
Okay, cool.
Pretty solid.
So what is something that's like unexpected that you've gotten from jiu-jitsu that you couldn't have seen coming when you first started?
I think the biggest thing is just the therapeutic nature of it. And I know it sounds kind of crazy because you're going in and you're fighting. And so you wouldn't think that that's therapeutic, but for me it's like I can leave all my drama at the mat. I step on the mat. There's no drama, right? You step on the mat and all you're focused on is the technique. So whatever's going on in my personal life or in my work life or whatever, like none of that really matters. And so I think that was a surprise because I went into it thinking that I just want to roll. I just want to have something where I'm still
being
fighting.
active,
I'm still being active. Yeah, I sit behind a desk now, so I needed that kind of like that face-to-face, that violence of action type thing. And so that's what I went into expecting, but what I didn't expect is how therapeutic it really is.
Right. Dude, something that somebody said last night when we were all sitting here around the campfire, they said, and it's something that I thought about, but it's like, it's weird how being in the military, like a lot of, and just being a man in general, like sometimes we got anger issues, you just blow
100%,
up.
Yep.
But it's weird how something like fighting can chill you out. You know, it's like counterintuitive, but it works that way. Kickboxing, jiu-jitsu, things like that help you get that out, and then you're just like peaceful afterwards. Like you don't need to fight.
Yeah, it's like a safe place to get out that energy. Because I think you're right. We get amped up. We want to fight. We get a little I guess short-tempered. But you come and do jiu-jitsu, and it's just like, okay, I'm getting all of that. I'm getting all of that out on the mat, and then I can be a better father. I can be a better husband. I can be a better friend. I can be a better corporate guy if you want to call it that. And
right.
I don't have to. I'm not so pent up, right? So I think it's just for us guys or for everybody. It's just a good way to safely release that energy.
Yeah.
And so you're not amped up in a store and pop off to the wrong guy.
Yeah, no, for sure. So what has been have you traveled around to any of the other gyms? Like have you had those experiences just going and training with some, I mean, we've done it here we're training with all kines of different people here too.
100%.
So how's it been doing that, like rolling with people that just strangers, people you don't know?
Yeah, I think the beauty of jiu-jitsu is it's such a good culture and it's such like it's kind of like the military, right? You meet somebody in the military and you can instantly connect. You go to another gym. So I actually started up at Emerge Jiu-Jitsu. It's up in Vancouver, Washington. Great gym, great culture.
Yeah.
I started my kids there first, and then I realized that my son was going to be able to beat me. So
Dude, your son's a beast.
So I started. He is. Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, he's been doing it for about 5 years now, and it's just awesome to watch him work. But we started there and fell in love with the culture of the gym, and it was a safe place to start everybody at jiu-jitsu. And then we moved down to Arizona and we started training with Carlos Farias, and very similar atmosphere. You get that family connection, and you're all part of a team. You're all kind of unified. And then going to these other gyms, I've trained in Missouri. I've trained down in Tucson. I've trained up in Utah, and It's all the same. It's all family. And it's like when you go to another gym, you feel like you're just extended family being welcomed in.
Yeah,
I think that's the best way I can put it.
Yeah, no, for sure. That's something I definitely recommend for anybody that trains jiu-jitsu. Like, get out to other gyms and see what they're like. Because, yeah, like you're saying, and I've heard it before, it's almost like you don't have to talk to somebody to get to know what they're like. Like, once you start rolling with them.
Yeah, you'll find out quick.
Yeah. You know, it's like, some people just, they balls to the wall, and it's not like it makes them a bad person or whatever. You just kind of get to know, like you defend and do your thing. This guy's gonna bring it, right? Yeah. And we got people everywhere in between, right? Everyone on the spectrum. But if you guys want to come through, we got Chris and Matt,
what's going on, guys?
Board members and the guys that run Veterans Breakthrough, if you want to
I can pass my mic over to them if you want.
Yeah,
me to.
you guys can share the mic. We can pass it along. Yeah. Actually, if you guys can share the mic, that'll work. Yeah, let's probably scoot this over. But so we've been up here for a few days, and we kind of talked a little bit about some of the things that we've been doing up here. But Chris, if you can kind of share the mission with Veterans Breakthrough, and I know we've had you on the podcast, we've talked about it before, but if you can reiterate and where people can find Veterans Breakthrough.
The mission for me was really just helping veterans take their life to the next level. And, I say that, and it's kind of generic in a way, but I say it because the next level can be different, right? Depending on where you are in life, there's always another level. And our goal is to meet the veterans where they're at. A couple of years ago is when we got into the jiu-jitsu space and started doing a lot of that. And it's really helped us grow, and it really gives that purpose back to veterans. So the idea of having this purpose, the camaraderie, the discipline, all of this stuff brings it back into kind of what we really have been taught to do for the time of the service.
Yeah,
so
you guys want to scoot down.
It's definitely been one of the blessing things out there. And we're just excited to keep sharing this with veterans out there. Obviously we got our website, veteransbreakthrough.org. You can find us out there. We do scholarships for veterans. So if you're new to jiu-jitsu or white belt, you can get out there, put in a scholarship, and we're only in the state of Arizona currently, but as we grow, we want to move up and go.
we're all huddling up here. We're
it's cold out here.
Yeah, we got body heat.
Cuddles.
So you get out there on the website. If you're a veteran that isn't interested in jiu-jitsu, it's still something. I always push yourself to new limits, right? Try something new, and it may not be for you, and that's perfectly fine, but we're still an organization that wants to help veterans, whether you do jiu-jitsu or not. It's about taking that life to the next level. So
I know I've heard you talk about, like, when people get out, you have a hard time transitioning back into civilian life, like finding your community, the community that you had in the military. Like, you get so close with the people that you're serving with. I mean, a lot of times we get sent to a place. I mean, even if it's within the U.S., like my experience, like I got sent across the country, didn't know anybody. It's just me and the guys that I showed up with. And then you end up becoming close friends. And then when you're out, it's like, well, now what? Like, they're all still in and I'm out. And what do I do? Where do I go? Who do I hang out with? And you can start feeling kind of lonely. And like, you just kind of become a recluse, But before we get too much further, Matt, if you can introduce yourself and your school and your experience.
Sure, Matt Blank from Undisputed South. I'm about 20 minutes south of Tucson on Green Valley. Been doing jiu-jitsu for 15 years now. Just got my second degree on my black belt. It's interesting when you talk about the community. For me, I started jiu-jitsu while I was still in the military. Right, a buddy of mine had grabbed me and asked me to come try a class. So by the time I got out, right, kind of same story. Yeah, choked me out. Well, the funny thing is like he only lasted 2 weeks, right? And I stuck with it. And every time I've been promoted, I always send him a message on Facebook, right, of like, look at where you could have been.
Holy shit, all the way to black belt.
If you weren't a quitter, right? But again, and it's not for everybody. It takes time, and it's a lot of dedication. So for me, jiu-jitsu, I love it. It's helped me a lot. And but back to the, I started before I retired, right? So I was in the military from 1996 to 2020. So I had that network built, right? Like I got out, same thing. My military network, I didn't have a connection, right? But I had that jiu-jitsu connection immediately, right? Because I already had it established, and I knew where I could go when I needed to train, or get that little bit of that mind release out. So.
Yeah, for sure, dude. That's awesome. So what's been something that, like, for you, being that you've been training for such a long time, something that even like to this day, something that you've realized training jiu-jitsu? Yeah,
for me, I mean, the big thing is, being comfortable, being uncomfortable, right? Like when I'm being smashed, right? When I'm being really pressured, right? Where I feel like the world's on top of you, right? And you can't get out, right? And it's taking that little bit of mind space and that little bit of awareness of, okay, I'm okay, I can get out, right? So when that boulder's on top of us, when that thing's on top of us, of like taking that second of backing up and telling ourselves, I'm okay.
Pausing.
Right? Like, yeah, and sometimes I'm on, like, I'll talk to myself a little bit in my own little headspace of like, you're not going to die. You're going to be okay.
At black belt, you have these conversations.
Yeah, I'm 100%, right? Like there's times where I feel.
So this never goes away.
No.
Damn.
We're always going to feel like we're dying.
No, and and that's me, and that's my journey, right? And you might, you might be different, right? But there's times where to this day I feel uncomfortable, right? And I'm still learning, like, how do you be comfortable being uncomfortable, right? I've got a new student, 250-pound bodybuilder, right? He's normally 300 when he's on show, right? White belt, but man, he makes me feel that now, right?
Yeah.
Of being, and I'm still even right of like, okay, I know what I don't want to let you do to me, and I know what I need to do to stay safe, and it's getting a lot better, right?
Yeah,
but I'm still working on what I need to do to fix that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and I don't think it ever goes away, because there's always going to be somebody better than us, right? Like, and that's part of this, is we're never going to reach the top of whatever the top is, right? I'm always going to run into a room, whether it be, even a lower belt, right? Like that catches me or gives me a hard time, right? Like there's a hierarchy to it,
Right.
So it just never goes away. And that's what I kind of enjoy, is like still learning to deal with that.
Yeah. Dude, and it's cool like how it affects everything. Like you said, doing jiu-jitsu is something that's hard. But then once you start doing things that are difficult, like being uncomfortable, it's almost like, well, that's kind of hard. Maybe I can.
Then you look
maybe I
for
can
it.
do that.
Yeah.
I was just listening to something where, there's this book Mastery, and they were saying like when you start kind of figuring this thing out, like just trying shit. Like I'm gonna try it. I'm gonna try something new, and you start getting on a roll. Like you almost kind of hope that you fail, so that you can learn from the experience. I was like, dude, that's a whole different. And it's almost like if you nail it on your first try, it can be almost like a curse, because you feel like you're gifted at it and you don't have to put in as much as the other guy, because I'm just a natural. And that's almost a bad thing if you nail it right off the bat. It's almost better to suck at something and work your way,
Yeah, we were just talking about that in our session earlier. You brought it up, and it was actually one of the things. I think we're so taught to not fail, right? Whether that's in school growing up, right? Don't get an F, right? I heard it one day put, it's like, it was I think it was like a personal growth person speaking. He talked about every day I came home at dinner time, I'd ask my kids, what did they fail at today?
Yeah.
Right? Because failure is not a bad thing, right? If it's only bad if we fail and don't do anything about it.
It's only bad if you quit.
Exactly. So I think by that, having that failure, you get to learn from it, and that's the best part of it.
There was one thing I heard. There's two different types of failure. There's the failure of never starting, which you'll never learn from. And then the failure, the failure when you do something, but then you can learn from it and keep going. And, but yeah, if you never even try, I mean, you're not going anywhere.
Yeah. And I'm always honest with my students or even new members that come in, like right off the bat, of how difficult it is, right? Like it's not easy, and you got to be willing to enjoy the suck for a long time if it's something you want to stick it with, right? Like, for some people, they dabble their toes, right, and then they exit. For us, we get hooked, right? Because in our brain, we're wired, we enjoy it. It's what, we use an escape for our physical, for our mental, right? But again, it is so difficult, right? And it doesn't, and I say when you're talking about, does it get easier, right? It doesn't get easier, right? Like it gets a little bit, right? But there's still times where there's difficulty involved, right? Like if it was ever easy, like so many more people would do it.
Right. What's the point?
Right.
What's
Yeah.
the point?
And you stop progressing, right?
Yeah.
If it's easy, you're like, what am I even doing?
Yeah.
I think that's what I love about the kind of the correlation between the military and jiu-jitsu. You really have to be okay with hating your life for 2 years. Two years plus, right? The first 2 years, all I was doing was getting just crushed, and I still get crushed. But I've learned how to deal with it. But that first 2 years is so critical to stick with it, because you have to kind of go through that fire of failing and thinking, man, what am I even doing? I'm not learning anything. I feel like I'm just getting smashed every day, and then things start clicking,
and then
you're
something
like,
happens.
okay.
Then
And
you
you're
hit
like,
something. Yeah.
I try to set the parameters a little bit more shallow, though, at like 6 months, right, is what I'll tell the average, you know what I mean, of like 6 down, you know. But again, everybody's different, right? But I think initially if you come out and you say it's going to take you 2 years until you feel comfortable, that can be something that some people immediately are scared from. Right? Like, I feel like 6 months, like, maybe they can swallow that, right? Like, you know, but I don't disagree, right? And again, as you progress, as you get more belts, like, your difficulties change.
Yeah, for sure. You know what's one thing that a lot of people don't talk about is just how different everybody's lives are. And everybody's, like, comparing each other. Like, you start with somebody, and he gets a stripe, I get a stripe. And then a couple months later, he gets a stripe, I get a stripe. And then he gets another stripe, and I don't get a stripe. But the thing is that he's like showing up 4 days a week. He maybe is like 10 years younger, doesn't have any kids, you know, and he can spend all his time at the gym, where like I got side hustles, podcasts, work full time, you know, and it's like, it's a different life, and you can't have those expectations for yourself. And if you're sitting there comparing back and forth all the time, you're just going to make yourself miserable, you know?
100% agree. Yeah, I think that's you hear it all the time. It's the comparison game, when really all you need to do is compare yourself to yesterday, right? It's strictly comparing your own journey with your own journey, not against anybody else's journey, because everybody has different athletic abilities. I'm not flexible worth shit. So it's like, you know, you just compare your own journey to your own journey, and you'll be fine.
Yeah. I think there's a quote that says comparison is the thief of joy, right? And
it is.
And that's really what it's about is, you know, we're talking jiu-jitsu here, but this is everywhere in life, right? Let's say you just started in a business, right? And somebody else started alongside of you, or, you know, whatever it is. Everybody's at different levels. And, you know, coming into jiu-jitsu, I had a background in wrestling, so I kind of progressed maybe a little fast, and you know, I got to blue belt, and then you got in my own head like, oh, I got to do this jiu-jitsu thing. I got to pull guard, and lost my very first tournament as a blue belt, like first round. And I'm like, what the heck, right? So then you get stuck in your own head and like start looking around and comparing, and then it is a thief of joy, you know?
Yeah,
so.
Yeah, for sure. And when you have to, I have to do this. I got to get this. It's like, dude, just enjoy the journey, enjoy the ride. I was talking to, you know, some of the younger guys today, like younger in jiu-jitsu. And it's like, dude, if you really think about it, if you're going to do this thing for a long time, like Matt, you know, I mean, how long have you been a black belt?
Black belt, I just got my second degree, so 6 years.
Okay.
So, yeah, I started, obviously, white to black was 9 years.
Okay.
And then 6 years
and then
as a
6
black
years
belt.
as a black belt.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you got a long time of doing jiu-jitsu. I mean, it's going to be, you'll be a black belt for a really long time. And if like you're focused on this black belt, like I got to get the black, and then what happens when you finally get it? Like, you've missed out on the entire journey.
Yeah, for me, honestly, like I never even thought about it. Like, thought about a black belt until I got my brown belt.
Really?
Right?
Okay.
And then I was like, okay, man, I guess I'm gonna get my black belt.
Yeah.
Right? But again, everybody thinks different. We process different. Like, it was never on my mind, right? Like, I went white to blue in 8 months because I had a wrestling background.
Yeah.
Right. So I got a blue belt pretty quick, and then everything else was kind of through IBJJF timeline, right, to get to the rest. But yeah, it's a long time, you know.
Yeah,
what I mean?
yeah. It's a long time to be a black belt, you know. So enjoy the journey.
I got a question for Matt.
Yeah.
So you get, it's like, for example, for me, I got my blue belt in 6 months, and I've been in blue belt since, and I'm at 3.5 years now. You know, and they talk a lot about the blue belt blues, I think is what they call it. What is that advice you would give your students that are maybe getting to that point where, you know, and I no longer am focused on stripes or belts or any. I'm, you know, kind of like what you said today. I practice, go in there and have fun. Yeah. And I got out of my head by doing that. But what advice would you give to new people?
I think my advice, right, is like, it's so different for everybody, right? And every gym is so different, You know, and that I think that's the big thing is it's tough because in jiu-jitsu, there's no book. Right, there's the minimum. Like I said, I bring back to the IBJJF like the minimum 2 years to from blue, right, to purple, right. So you've met that, and now you're a year and a half past, right. And again, to some professors, are they competing, right? Some people love the fact that like you compete. That's what it's going to take you to get to the next level. Another coach is like, you need to do A, B, C, and D before I think you're ready for it. Right, like so. I feel like it's tough, right? I think the biggest thing is just having that mental fortitude. Is like every journey is different, and it comes back to the comparison, right? Of like he goes to here, even in your own gym, right? The coach might see something different in you than he does in him, and he's gonna get that stripe a little bit quicker, right? Or I'm gonna get it a little bit quicker,
right.
So I think that's, like I said, a tough one to answer because there's no written guidelines, right? Like I'll give you mine. Like usually, man, and I use a system where they're checking in, right? So I see, not that it's all attendance based, but that's a big part of it, right? So I can look back. I have minimums of like how many you've attended in the year. Of have you met that, right? Are we getting into class? Are we doing that stuff? Are they competing? Are they helping out in other aspects of like, you know,
just the whole package,
learning jiu-jitsu, right? You know, but again, everybody has a different life, right? Like a lot of my students have a home life, right? Like they're hobbyists. They're not a competitor, right? I've got a kid that I'm probably going to give him his blue belt in 6 months, and in 2 years, he'll probably get purple belt because he's going to smash all the way through, right? And again, some people like to sandbag because they want to go to a tournament. They want to try to win at that. And the coach kind of puts it in their head too, right? Of like, just stay a blue belt a little bit longer so you can go try to win this or win that. You know, so I think that's part of it too. And there's just no book on it. You know what I mean? So it's,
I think that's been one of the frustrating things for me because, you know, I went out and I was competing. And, and of course, I tore my bicep in World Masters, so that put me out almost 8 months. So, you know, in fairness, you know, it's like I didn't roll for a while, you know, but one of the things that for me and the way I think is like there is no there's, you know, I've never been any other martial arts, but I know like you pass this test, you get this belt, right? Go kick a board. I don't know.
No, and that's the thing. Like you memorize this kata, right? Like my coach came from Taekwondo. Like memorize this, and you're gonna get this. Do this, and you're gonna get this. Right, jiu-jitsu, it doesn't have that, right? There's no guidelines, and like I said, there's certain academies that they built those guidelines, right? Like you've got to do that. Like I can't remember his name, Roy Dean or Harris. Like, man, it's a test. A buddy of mine got his black belt through him.
I've seen him,
And dude, that 30-minute test, I'm like, man, I don't know if I could do that. Right? Like, and I looked at the 25.
Like a crucible,
Oh, and I looked at the 25, and just the like, there is a lot of memorization. There's a lot of like going through positions, a lot of cool stuff. But even when I was getting promoted, I'm like, man, I'm kind of glad there isn't a test like that. You know what I mean? Because that puts a lot of pressure on me. So again, it's just so different everywhere. But back to it is like, man, you have to, I think the other thing that jiu-jitsu's really taught me is patience, right? And you have to learn the patience of like, it will come, right? If I don't quit, right? If I'm not a quitter, it will work out. You know,
for sure.
I just want to say something on that. It was right when I was about to get promoted to blue belt. It was the 2 weeks leading up to that promotion. And I didn't realize that I was kind of on the verge of the promotion, but my coach would just wreck me. I came in and it was just a Shark Tank every day, and it was only like the 200 plus guys or 200 plus pounders. So it was all the big guys I'd see, and it was funny because our class, it was like guys that were like $150, $160. I'm like 170, 175, and he was like, all those guys, and they're all like 220 to like 290, and he would always make me start on my back, and I'm like, what the hell? And I was so pissed off.
Coach hates me.
I'd come into class, I'd like throw my back. I just thought he had it out for me, and just was just pushing me. I'd like throw my bag on the ground.
Out of here.
Yeah, 100%. And I just stuck with it, and I remember it was kind of like that last thing. It was one guy after another guy, and they started coming in. They're like, hey, I'm sorry, coach wants me to smash you. And they would just come in and just full smash. I was like, what the hell? And then he stopped the class, circled up, and I got promoted. But he told me later, he said, I knew you were either going to quit or get promoted. and I just wanted to see which one you were going to do. And I respect him for that. It was a cool thing. I wasn't going to quit. I'm too stupid to quit, so I just stuck with it. But it really, you talk about being uncomfortable and being okay in those bad environments. I think that was such a big growing point for me, because now I'll be under big guys and I'm like, okay, like I may not be able to escape. I may be stuck here, but I'm okay. I'm not gonna die. I'm just I'll chill. I'll figure something out, and I can think a lot better. But yeah, it was just that. I love that he told me that afterwards. He's like, you're gonna quit or you're gonna get promoted. I just want to see which one.
Dude, it's funny that you mentioned that. I caught our coach, Coach George. One time I was getting ready. Now I'm like, we're getting done with one roll, and I'm just kind of sitting there, and I just kind of look over my shoulder, and he's pointing at the purple belt and pointing at me. He's like, "Fuck him up," I'm like, "Oh shit!" I was like, "I see you, what you're doing over there." I was like, "Oh, let's go," But it is what it is. It's all in fun, man. What's up, Phil?
Hola.
We got Phil over here. He's also one of the board members from Veterans Breakthrough. Here we go. Yeah, you got a microphone. How's the weekend, dude? Dude, it's amazing out here.
It's cold.
Cold. It's nice. Well, you've been cold. You've been sleeping out in the tent.
Yeah, who does that?
You're the only one.
No. Chris is in the trailer.
Oh, Chris
I'm
is
in
in
the
the trailer.
trailer,
Okay,
yeah.
He's got two
you guys keeping
heaters.
each other yelling.
I got a heater in there. So.
No, okay.
He snores really loud.
You can hear him from inside the trailer.
Oh, yeah. That's the best thing of this tree. You hear everybody bitching about everybody's snoring. I'm like, oh, so-and-so, he snores, man. I saw him dragging his mattress out of the bedroom. Stories like that, man, just crack me up, because there's no animals that are going to come near us. Like, this building shakes at night.
Yeah.
And the poor ladies, they had to bunk together. I don't know which one of them snores, but one of them got to snore.
There's sawing logs in there.
There ain't no way women don't snore, but there is a lot of snoring.
Yeah. Yeah, man.
Everybody, positional snores. Everybody's like laid out on the couch, like who sleeps like that, dude? If you move, you'll stop snoring.
Just roll over, dude.
Yeah, dude. Get to your side, man. Breathe.
It's like jiu-jitsu. Get to your side, dude.
Little sleep apnea machines plugged in everywhere.
Hip escape, dude. You fucking snoring over there.
What'd you get for sleep? 70%.
Oh shit. Yeah, man. But yeah. So, dude, we were kind of talking about our blue belt experience. Like how. What about you? How's your blue belt experience been? What have you learned at blue belt?
Man.
Phil looks salty.
So I've been a blue belt for 3.5 years.
We got promoted on the same day, actually.
Yeah, I got one stripe more than him.
Yeah.
Dude.
It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got pictures. I'm not making this up. Like
3.5 years.
I outrank him is the point I'm trying to make right now. Yeah. No, I didn't know. So I remember the first time I started jiu-jitsu with a few people, and they all lined up, and Carlos calls out their little names, and like they get a little piece of tape on their belt, right? And I'm like, I want some
tape.
I want some tape. Right, and then
People have no idea.
It
how
happened
happy a little
again.
piece of
Never
tape
have
will
I
make you.
worked so hard for a piece of tape.
I'm telling you, man, it's
Fucking make your day.
It's sacred. And then a couple weeks go by, same people get called out, and they get another piece of tape. And I'm just a no-stripe white belt, right? So after class, I bowed down. I did a burnout in front of the dojo in my truck. And Carlos texts him. He's like, "Are you okay?" That might have been a little Sudanese. I'm not sure. But and I was like, "Yeah, I'm fine. I'm just tired of everybody getting promoted around me." He goes,
You told him that?
Yeah. I was like, "You're not ready." I'm not ready for a little piece. I want a piece of tape. And then 2 years later, my grandpa had just died, and I went to bury my grandpa, and then I flew home, and I competed the day I flew home, and I had 3 pounds of cut in the morning. So I got off the plane, cut, and showed up at a tournament. I took the guy down, he mounted me, and I was done. And I look at Carlos, he's like,
You're like, what the fuck? What do you mean?
well, he said it was cool, like it means a lot. Like,
Yeah.
Showed up for my
You showed
grandpa, and then I
Yeah.
showed up, and it's a silver in a 2-man bracket. Those are my favorite. What are we looking at?
There's birds. Sorry, I get distracted.
Yeah, squirrel.
Freaking me out.
Yeah.
And then I went to the class in a couple days, and I was lined up, and I'm all mopey. I've had a rough couple days, and Philip, everyone's like cheering and shit. I'm like, you guys have all like literally raped me. And you're cheering for me. Anyway, I get my blue belt, and where I'm at now, I'd much rather be a 4-stripe white belt.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I'm still getting smoked on the stuff that, you know, Kimuras.
Yeah, talk to me about Kimuras, Phil.
Hey, the war midget over here,
Fucking war midget.
dude, he's all over my arms, man. Like, I give him like this much space, he claws in there. Like,
Elbows in, always win.
they're in, dude. So he's hitting these seven of them.
Yeah.
And he's just laughing, and then he posts it on Instagram.
Sorry, it was my highlight reel. Sorry.
He's got it hidden inside some, so you can't see it's recording.
Yeah.
I'm
Anyway,
fucking him up this time.
I've had a lot of fun, man.
Yeah.
Jiu-jitsu's been fun for me. It's been tough. But outside of competing, I can eat whatever I want pretty much. And I know that in 3 sessions, I can shed all that, you know. I mean, one time I borrowed somebody's whoop. It was like 1,600 calories in an hour and a half. And that's ridiculous, you know. So
You said something though. You said you'd rather be a 4-stripe white belt, and I think I don't know if that's true for everybody, but I have definitely felt that sense of like I am not. I should not have the belt that I have right now. It's that I can't remember what it's called, but
I doubt that feeling ever goes
that
away.
identity,
Syndrome.
the imposter syndrome, right? And I remember when I was like, oh, okay, I think I'm ready for my blue belt.
See,
And I got
normies wouldn't get this.
yeah, but I got my blue belt, and then I immediately was like, I should not have my blue belt. This is too much. And my wife trains too. She's been training for the same amount of time that I have, and she just got her blue belt. And she had been trained. She works her ass off. It's crazy to see how hard she works, and she picks up the techniques and practices them until she has them down. But got promoted, and immediately same thing. I suck. I don't think I deserve this. And I think we all have to just go through that imposter syndrome, but realize like, no, we kept showing up, and there's more to jiu-jitsu than just having all the technique down. Like you said, you couldn't pass that test of 30 minutes of technique. I think there's more to jiu-jitsu than just the technique. There's the showing up. There's how hard are you working, and it's kind of everything. Who are you on the mat? Like, how are you as a training partner? There's so many different things to jiu-jitsu that having imposter syndrome doesn't make sense. But to us, we're like, why am I still getting smoked? Why am I still getting Kimura'd?
Dude, so I was just trying to find it. So you guys been blue belts for 3.5 years?
Long time.
I was just looking. I got my blue belt in September 2020. And
Why are you sandbagging?
no, I remember, and it's been like all the way through. I've had like that imposter syndrome. It's like I got the blue belt, and I'm just like, fuck. Like, I'm not a blue belt. Like,
Well, you beat me with a cast on, so I think you're all right.
I'm doing all right.
The claw!
That's fucking hammer, Clubber Lang. But but you know, it's like, yeah, like I think blue belt, and then the craziest thing is like I got the blue belt, and then I think it was like shortly after, like coach gave me a stripe, and they gave me and every fucking time I was like, dude, like I feel like this is not me. But
I mean, that's really part of the jiu-jitsu, right, is like turning away from like the self-loathing, right, and understanding like everything that I'm doing, even if it doesn't happen in 6 months or a year, I'm still making progress, and I'm still doing more than the dude on the couch or the other person, right? And again, it's a terrible thing to compare ourselves, right? Like, and again, I think differently. I would walk out of an open mat, and I wouldn't necessarily compare myself of like why I lost, right? I would like why or what do I need to do to fix to beat them the next time, right? Like, so not so much of like the internal, like how do I fix it, right? How do I
what can
do
I do
better,
next time?
right? How can I do better, right? Like. But I mean, that's part of like the whole martial arts thing, right? Is like, it's hard, right? And it's that mental breakthrough, and that's why people quit, right? Is like, it's how long can you endure sometimes the feelings of I'm not worthy, right? Or different things until you have that breakthrough, like, man, I deserve this shit, right? Like,
yeah, and that's one thing is that it did make me do. Like, I knew it's weird because I've had such a hard time with this fucking thing, but quitting hasn't really like crossed my mind. Like there's days like those fucking silent car rides home where you're just fucking staring like
real
what
uncomfortable.
the fuck just happened to me, you know? But
7 Kimuras.
yeah, really? 7, you know.
It was a pretty in like 5 minutes.
Right. but it's like you just keep show up again. And dude, and traveling, or like talking about traveling, I've had so many times where I don't have to show up to somebody's gym when I'm traveling. Like nobody even knows that I'm here. And there's times when I'm sitting there stretching and I'm looking down at my pants and I'm like, what the fuck am I doing here? Like, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this to myself? You know what I mean? But the crazy thing is that every single time, that it's just all the fucking mental game. Because every single time, once the class starts, you start meeting the people, you start rolling, you could get the shit beat out of you, but I always have an amazing time, you know, and it more often than not, that's how it goes, you know. And now that when you do it enough, that the first thoughts of what am I doing here, they're less and less. Now it's more excitement to go and meet new people and just have a good time, you know?
And back to like part of the promotion stuff, right? Like one of my students here is Mike, getting ready to get his blue belt on Monday.
Yeah.
Right? And I like people to come into the academy like, why isn't this guy a blue belt? Right? Like, why isn't this guy a purple belt?
He's been whooping ass.
Right. Like, and again, right? But because I want him to feel right of like, man, you're ready for it, right? Like you're beating blue belts, you're giving purple belts a hard time, right? And for me, like, you know, 3.5 years, however long it is, like enjoy it, right? Like it just takes time.
Yeah.
Back to the traveling aspect, 10 years of my jiu-jitsu journey, I was flying in the Air Force, right? So everywhere, you know, they would go to the bar, I would go to an academy, right? Like
awesome.
they would go, I would take the GOV and I'd, you know, all over from East Coast to West Coast, like being able to drop in and train at a lot of places. And that definitely helped me grow right in jiu-jitsu and see different aspects, different games, different personalities, different cultures, different vibes, different cults. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, for sure.
All that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Dude, and you know, one thing that like talking about the self-loathing and like sometimes feeling like stuff that isn't working, or do I suck at this? I mean, and we were talking to some of the guys earlier that when you do travel, like sometimes you start realizing like, well, being home and training with the guys that you train with all the time, or even with each other, like we're all coached by similar people, so the game is very similar, so we kind of know each other's style. But when you start going to a different gym and maybe you felt like you've been sucking the whole time, and all of a sudden you start putting it on somebody and you're like, holy shit, like this stuff, my stuff's working.
Even for me, like I'd roll through as a blue belt, right? And like, not talking shit, but like roll through a brown belt, right? And I'm like, oh man, maybe this jiu-jitsu thing does work, right? Am I that good, or is he really not that good, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, so there's different levels to it, and everywhere you're going to get a different experience. No place I feel like is the same ever.
Yeah.
Some days you feel like, some days you're like, oh yeah, I'm totally a brown belt, right? Or I'm totally a purple belt. And then a few days go by and you're like, nah.
Not anymore.
Not anymore.
At the same gym, right?
Yeah.
Look at you. You're looking in the mirror like, look at you.
Yeah, you pathetic.
Yeah.
I think the other thing, because a lot of times you're in this, like you have good days and you have bad days. I think the thing that you always have to remember is why you're doing it, right? And what are you there? Are you there for a belt, or are you there because you're a big competitor? Like, why are you even doing jiu-jitsu in the first place? And I think for a lot of the military guys, it is that camaraderie outside of the military, or it's that therapy or whatever it is. And so on those hard days when you're like, why am I doing this? A lot of times you just have to go back to why. Like, well, okay, I got smashed, but I also didn't have to think about my problems for an hour or 2 hours, or I came off the mat with a little bit more clarity because my mind's so drained. It's not gonna focus on all the other bad stuff in my life. I can just like come off with a little bit more clarity, a little bit more peace, and things like that. So sometimes you just have to go back to why you started in the first place, and it might change over time, but go back to why you're doing jiu-jitsu in the first place.
Yeah, and you mentioned something about like the camaraderie, the veterans, and we're here at a veterans retreat, and you know, for you guys, the board members and the guys that put this together, you know, I want you guys to share like what you do with veterans, like the different things that you do, because we've been to seminars and tournaments, and now we're here at the retreat, and like what do you do? What does Veterans Breakthrough do, and what they do with, you know, the events that they have? So yeah.
I think those are the top 3 things that we're aiming for, right? Is the retreat, the competition a couple times a year, and different seminars. And then I'll speak like what happens or what the goal is, right? Being an academy owner, currently I have 6 vets that are sponsored by Veterans Breakthrough, right? So again, it's building that group, right? For a year, they get to train for free, right? There are minimums that, we try to instill of like, however many classes a week. A couple of the guys are here, so it's helping them bond too, right? Of like they don't have that military network, right. Of being able to get close and hang out with some different folks or different veterans also.
How do they go about that sponsorship program?
Yeah, so honestly, just me as the owner, I'm just a people person, right? When people come to my gym, I get an email, right, and it tells me where it came from, right? So if it's Google, whatever. But as soon as I meet them, right, I want to know their background, right? Like I immediately, like, what do you do for a living, right? Like, what's your history? And not a big thing, right? But like to me, because I want to know if you're a vet, right? I want to know if you're a doctor. I'm just interested in what you do in life, right? Even with the parents of the kids, right? Like I have a lot of parents that come in. They would have never said they're a vet, right? But having that conversation, now we've grown, right? And I'm like, okay, hang out, let's train a little bit, right? Like, and it's not, I don't immediately go to this program, and I'm just being honest, right? Like most of them end up joining the gym, and I want to make sure they're committed, right? Because that's the biggest thing. Sometimes if you just immediately get something with no value behind it, you don't always respect it, right, or value it enough, right? So like I said, I want people that want to be in it, right? And now those people sometimes have hiccups, right? Like, and they need to move, things come up. Totally understand that, right? But we're just looking for guys that want to really change their lives and be invested in what we're doing.
Yeah, he does a really good job of the vetting process, right? So he's been instrumental in how, I don't know, like, just having that one gym and what it's doing for 6 people, like if we had 5 other gyms that were like Matt, like where could we be? So you got a coach that's willing to like, hey, you know what? I'll keep it on the back burner. I'll watch and make sure a guy is dedicated or a woman is dedicated to,
to the path, the
progress
journey,
so far, and then these guys, in a year, they're going to be monsters, man. And I don't know.
Yeah, as I don't know, about 6 months ago, is that when you came on the board?
Yeah, right, roughly.
Roughly 6 months ago is when we asked Matt to come on the board. He had 6 scholarshipees within that. After finding out about it, it was like that quick, and I'm like we're talking to the board member. I'm like, we need him on our board.
Yeah,
he gets it. He's an academy owner. He can help us teach other academies, So for us, it was a no-brainer.
Yeah, that's perfect.
And just hearing what he said, and it's truly about back to the connection, right? Connecting with people. What did you do in the past, And that connection of veterans, it's something that's big. So obviously getting out there, becoming affiliates, so if there's anybody out in the Arizona academy owners, there's no cost to become an affiliate. And, we get you, I guess, in a way, I don't know what the term is, but you're part of our affiliate program. We just want to make sure you're going to be there, do, the right thing, make sure our veterans are going to the, training and stuff like that. But our goal is to be able to get more affiliates. So when there's a veteran that's in a different part of town, like we already know.
We get one here in Scottsdale just based off this one network we have with the gym here. And Flagstaff.
So if we had somebody in Flagstaff, we have a gym now they can go to. We know because of our connections, they're a great academy to send our veteran to. Because there are, as Matt said, there's some out there cultish type, and we don't want to send our veterans to that. Unfortunately, we want our veterans to be taken care of. We want them to be there for a long time. And
for sure. So what is something that if anybody wants to contribute to help veterans break through, what can somebody do?
Oh, man. It's always difficult to ask for money. Right?
Where can people send money?
Well, I was just right to the website. We take it on the website. We got PayPal.
Okay.
We got it all. But it's hard when people keep their money tight to their chest, right? How are we different than the other 44,000 nonprofits for veterans in the United States? You give them the whole elevator speech and all that, and you still don't have them, right?
Yeah.
And then you get somebody who's like, you know what? I saw that. I came to the seminar or the tournament. I like what you're doing. I was like, oh, you got children that are in jiu-jitsu? He goes, no, I don't. I just love what you're doing. And it was just a couple $100, you know, but that people are looking, people are watching, but every dollar goes to literally getting a veteran into a life-changing habit to maybe push that veteran back in the right direction. Accountability, call-outs, we call them, you know. But, it'd be huge, you know, $10 a month.
For sure.
If, you know, 1,000 people did, I mean, it's crazy.
Yep. Yeah, and I don't know if maybe any other gyms in Arizona, or if they want to maybe become an affiliate, they can reach out to you guys.
One day we'll be outside Arizona, but currently we got to focus on Arizona.
Yeah, so maybe traveling around we can help spread it. But
there's enough gyms in Arizona, and these, you know, like there's other gyms like 30 minutes from here you've never heard of. I'm like, get some.
So when it comes back to what we do, obviously we can't make this happen without money coming in.
Right.
And that was where, you know, the tournaments came about and the seminars, because these are ways we can also provide value back, right, to the person donating.
Like an interest, a mutual interest in.
Now, real quick on the tournaments and the seminars, some of the misconception, right, is that it was just veterans only.
Yeah.
Right. And we got to definitely make sure that we're clear on that, right? Like what we're doing up here, part of the foundation and stuff. But, you know, the tournaments, the seminars, right? Like, again, we just got to do a better job at building the community and more reach.
Right.
But we are always looking for sponsors, right, at our tournaments. You know, people that want to set up booths at the tournaments. These are all ways that we can bring in more donations to our organization. So sponsoring mats, sponsoring podiums, sponsoring the tournament and whole. Food sponsor. I mean, it was very fortunate. You know, the day before we left, we picked up the check the day we left. You know, to a sponsor came in and did the food for us. So that's huge awesome for us, because we want to make sure our veterans are fed well. And
shout them out.
Yeah, Mesa Hanger. I don't know if he wants a shout out, but he's getting one.
I was trying to leave his name out.
Yeah, Mesa Hanger LLC. They've been a huge. It's right where we do our tournaments. So they've been a huge support system for us. They've gotten us to where we are.
Our supporter.
Yeah.
From the beginning, they've done they saw something and it's different. And they liked it.
Yeah. No, but even this retreat here, we had Mid-First Bank. They donated to it. We've had a couple of donors. Both, you know, some donate in kind, right? Some may donate. We didn't have any this time for food, but we've had it in the past. It may be other things that we can raffle off, and that brings money in. So that it doesn't always have to be money that brings it here. So
another thing is, like, you can check your network, because maybe you don't have all the money in the world. You can maybe contribute, like you were saying, $10 a month or whenever, or just compete. Like my thought is, if I'm going to compete in any tournament, I'm going to compete in these tournaments first. You know, everything else comes second to the Veterans Breakthrough tournaments, to the stuff that you guys are doing, because you guys are on my team. You know, it only makes sense.
Even going on that a little bit further, if I could, is everybody works for different companies out there, and there's a lot of companies that actually have ways to sponsor or to donate to, but it has to come from within. You know, so you get to some of these bigger ones. We had Kitchell a couple years ago do it, but somebody that worked for them, you know, basically brought us to them and they donated, right? Same way that Mid-First came about. It was somebody's network that got us in there.
And we got some no-name sponsors too, you know, that they never want any shout-outs.
So it could be you work for a big company out there and they do donate, or they do a dollar for dollar match, right? So you donate 50, they donate 50, and that could be huge down the road. So.
Yeah, for sure. So I wanted to kind of talk about the retreat a little bit. So one thing about this retreat being all veterans, I mean, this is a very intimate thing. Like, some of the things that, you know, we talk about here are something that a veteran would never talk about to anybody else, you know, and that is something that can save people's lives, you know, because when you're keeping all this stuff bottled up inside, like, you eventually go crazy, or you just blow up or whatever.
I remember, like, you would have never catch me around a fire pit at night with a bunch of whiny vets. Like, that would have never been me. Right? Well,
look at you now.
But that's an ego that we have sometimes as veterans to not
showing
do that.
Humility or showing that vulnerability. You got the biggest dude breaking down. You know, like, when you see a grown man break down, it's different, because that man, no offense to the ladies we have, but that man has been holding on to something so long, and all of a sudden we've known him for 10 minutes and he's already like, I'm happy. You know,
Yeah.
and maybe that's what he needed, that push forward. You know, maybe he was on the verge. Like,
Yeah.
there's stuff mentally going on here with all these veterans that nobody will understand if they weren't here.
Right. Right.
So-
yeah. It has a huge. What you guys are doing has a huge impact on the veteran community,
Everybody
for sure.
shows they get to be themselves. You know, we're not a judgy bunch. You know, so
You know,
it just
one of
works
the
out here.
one of the big things that I heard last night when we were all kind of talking is just a very, I heard it over and over, this feeling of how the military like just used you and then just like spit you, like kicked you out, spit you out, and like you're done. We're done with you, you know? And being able to like come together, because somebody else was saying that like it's a big machine too. Like it keeps moving forward. It's going to do what it does. But it's the people, like even like I work for a giant company, and it's like I don't have an attachment to this giant company. I have an attachment to the people that I work with, you know, and that's the community, you know what I mean? But yeah, we definitely have it here, and you guys are building it, you know, with this retreat, with everything that you guys are doing.
I think the cool thing about this retreat too is you know, we all have our own personal lives, and sometimes it's really easy to kind of get inside your head and think, oh man, I'm the only one dealing with this. I'm the only one going through all the, like, whatever issues you're going through, and then you come here and you sit around a fire pit for 3-4 hours at night, and you're like, man, I'm not the only one. There's a lot of people that are going through it, and it's just kind of like unity through knowing that we're all going through it, and people are succeeding. And so when you see somebody else that may be struggling but is also like moving past that and
Right.
succeeding, you're like, cool, if they can do it, I can do it.
There's
right?
people on all different
And-
walks of the journey. They're in different stages of the journey.
Yeah,
right?
100%.
And we look at that, right? Because if you were deployed, whether it was Iraq or somewhere else, or maybe it was just I did a lot of my deployments in Suda Crete, like Paradise, right? Crystal clear blue
It's
waters,
rough.
and
That sounds hard.
But I did do
Good
my
food.
year in Iraq. But what gets you through those times? Your sphere that's there,
Right.
the people that are next to you, right? When we leave the military, all that's gone. So that's where these things are so powerful, because we have that. We can come all sit here and push each other through what's going on.
Yeah, and honestly, like I found during those times, like I found jiu-jitsu, right? Like that is really what I felt like. I was going through a divorce, right? Like stumbled upon it, and I really feel like that changed the direction, right? And had that different circle to be able to go to and train and all that good stuff. For me, as far as the retreat, I think the biggest thing I took away is tell the story, right? Or tell your story, right? From Sal, I think was the biggest thing that I enjoyed. Because again, like you said, that bottling it up, keeping it inside, right? Of like just, even if it's a snippet, right? Like even if you just want to share a little bit, right? Like get a little bit of it out and then more comes out, right? Like, and I'm clear, none of us are trained psychologists, shrinks, therapists, right? Like
Jiu-jitsu will help.
no, but that's what I'm saying.
You
Like
know?
it'll help, right? And it's really helped me develop my mind of like
Right, yeah.
trying to help others and being a better person and learning different skills, you know, but being able to tell your story and just, hey, this is a little bit of what happened to me, or you dive all in, right? Of like,
Yeah.
you know, because there was a lot of fucked up shit,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
and there's
for sure.
things that I'm not comfortable talking with, right? Like, and
Yeah.
that's okay, but it's moving through more and more pieces of it, you know?
Yeah, like jiu-jitsu, little by little.
Yeah.
Right?
I for me, for many years, I didn't tell my story, and it weighed upon me. And part of my reason of not telling my story was because I didn't have it as worse as other people, right? Almost this survivor guilt, right? I went into the Navy because I wanted to be special. I wanted to go Navy SEAL. I didn't know how to swim, you know, so I never even got to the
Strike
chance
one.
of trying
That makes
out.
things hard.
Right? I mean, I could swim, but just not. just
If
didn't know how to
Goggins can
swim
do it,
that
you can
good,
do it.
right? But you know, that was kind of I'm that type. Like, you know, if I would have went back, I would have probably been infantryman and, you know, Army or Marines if I didn't have the idea of wanting to be a Navy SEAL type of thing.
Yeah.
But when I go out to tell my story, I was an intel guy. My deployments were to Suda Crete. You know, it's like you get these other guys that, you know, so many tours in Iraq. I'm like, my story doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And that's where I talk about sharing that story. And Sal does a great job sharing it. And he's got a huge story to share.
Right.
And really, I want other people to know it doesn't matter what background you had in the military. I don't care if you've never been to Iraq or to combat or whatever, you still have a story, and that story is going to help somebody else. Yeah. And it doesn't matter if you had a combat story and that's what's holding you back in life, or if you just got out and you're missing the military. And I mean, I'm sure it's probably a good high percentage of people that got out, hated the military, and then a few years later you see them with, you know, the stickers all over the place. You know,
it's their camaraderie. When you talk about like sharing your story, when you and I were talking about that podcast that my buddy and I are starting, and we did our first episode, and then we kind of chatted afterwards, and we try to always like have these after action, like how do we do, and we suck, but it was a lot of it is like, man, it's so weird to talk about things, and they're not even like super deep, like dark things right now, and it might progress to other things, but it was just so weird to get that out into a public setting, right? Because we're so used to just bottling things up and just like, okay, like this is my story and it's staying with me and that's it. And so that's kind of been a fun thing, learning that process, doing this podcast. I think it's more about learning than anything. It just gives us a chance to just kind of talk things out and share.
Miguel, I hate to bounce, but I'm gonna get ready for like session number 5 or 6.
That's coming up.
Whenever we're on, bro,
appreciate you guys being on
it's
here.
Approaching.
Yeah,
we've
been on here for an hour. I think it's time for all of us to get ready for the next session so we can beat each other up. Appreciate you guys being on. Real quick, before we get out of here, fighting for your life. What does that mean? What does that mean to you? It's the name of the show. I mean, we all fight in different ways. You guys have, you know, some of us have literally fought for your lives on the battlefield. What do you, when you hear fighting for your life, what does that mean to you?
You know, for me, it goes back to kind of why I do this, right? Our slogan, live for purpose, right? And fighting for your life is what I see that. It's fighting for a purpose, right? Why do we fight? It's for a purpose. Right. And whether that purpose is what, you know, when you served in the military, may be different now, right? As a father, my kids are my purpose, right? Right. I fight every day to be able to give them a better lifestyle than I had growing up, and to do more for them, right? But it's also outside of that, right? Doing what I can for the veterans, right? Doing what I can for others, and it's really about giving back and being grateful, but it's fighting for something better.
Yep, for sure. Make sure you guys go to veteransbreakthrough.org and look up Veterans Breakthrough on Instagram and on Facebook and everywhere. Help, contribute, whatever you can do, it's appreciated.
Just share it. Yeah, that's a huge, if you can donate, just share it.
Yep.
It's a great organization. We love what you guys do. It's been awesome. Sure. Yeah. Fighting for your life. I think, you know, just piggybacking off of what you said, I think now my mission is much different, being out of the military, and, you know, I got a wife and kids that I'm taking care of. And so really just that fighting for a great life for them, fighting to show my kids what a good example looks like, what somebody who can deal with pain, deal with pressure, but keeps moving forward looks like. Somebody, we talked about failure. Right. I want to show my kids that it's okay to fail, but it's not okay to quit. Right. Right. And I have them in Jiu Jitsu, right. And they've learned those lessons on their own. But I think that to me, fighting for your life is really my mission now is to set the example that it's okay to struggle, but it's not okay to quit, and it's it's perfectly okay as you're fighting for a successful life to just get banged up along the way. Right. And I think
fail forward.
Yeah, fail forward. Right, that's the beauty of jiu-jitsu. We get banged up along the way, but we're always progressing. Even on those days that we don't feel like we're progressing, we're just moving.
Yeah.
We're just moving.
Yeah, for sure. And talking about the kids, now that, you know, wrapping it up, a lot of times people want to tell their kids like how to move forward in life, and you can do this, you can do that. The best thing that you can do is show them. Show 100%, them by doing it yourself. And, you know, like, there's times when I'll be on the mat, and in the beginning it's like I don't want to get beat up in front of my kids or my wife, right? But when your kids see you get the shit beat out of you and still come back, and then the guy that used to beat the shit out of you doesn't even do jiu-jitsu anymore. Yep. Like, he's been gone for a year now or 6 months, and I'm still here,
remember
and
him
I'm
anymore.
Still training, and you keep coming back.
What was
her
name?
Don't fucking stop. Right. Yep. Exactly. You know, so if you want to do it, you got to lead by example, like we learned in the military, right?
Great. And I know we gotta go soon, but I my son had been doing jiu-jitsu for I think probably 2 years, and my wife was always really good at being there, showing up, taking him to practice and everything. And he started when he was 5, so he was probably seven at the time. And she was kind of trying to coach him from the sideline because the coach was over doing something else. She was just trying to be encouraging. Paxton should just shrimp out, and he's like, "Mom, I don't see you on the mat." And that was like, and he's always been like, he's a very respectful kid, and he didn't mean anything like ill, but he's like, you don't know what I'm going through,
right?
And she immediately, she's like, okay, and she signed up, and then he would go do a tournament, and he used to have bad tournament anxiety, and so she would compete, and she's like, I just want to feel what you feel so I can help you work through it.
That's amazing.
And it's been so awesome just to see that connection. And now he looks at her, he's like she knows what she's she got her blue belt, and she can coach him through things, and she learned to set the example.
Dude, if somebody breaks into your house, you, your wife, your son, like everybody just jumps out.
We're all grabbing an arm.
Whoop the shit out of it.
Arm, leg, whatever it is, yeah.
Dude, I appreciate you guys being on here. We're getting ready to go train. Thank you guys for being with us. Make sure you check out Veterans Breakthrough. Give out your podcast one more time.
Weekend Grunt Podcast. You can find us on Instagram and Spotify.
Yep, make sure you guys check them out. Thank you guys for being with us. We'll talk to you guys next time. Bye.
Thank you.